Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel. We're going to talk about a possible Fed coin after the banking collapse or during the banking collapse. Who knows? But we're going to talk about what Tucker Carlson mentioned yesterday evening and also this evening, which is about possible an attempt at greater control after these banks collapse. Very interesting. A lot of people have talked about this. Hit subscribe to my super chat. I cannot do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to support this channel, my work, these live streams, I try to do them twice a day. I should have a live stream tonight at around 9:30, 9:45, 10 or so. But your super chat support is how I can do these live streams because um, that's just the way it is, unfortunately. And I just thank you so very much. So if you enjoy these live streams, your super chat, let me know what you think about the world of finance or, what's taking place in terms of the macroeconomic environment. We'll get to the January photos or videos, exculpatory evidence that was withheld from prisoners. Yes, it was a terrible day. I condemn that day, of course, but I also condemn $1 to $2 billion in property damage. Although I support why people peacefully demonstrated that summer, I do support why people peacefully demonstrated that summer. But according to Wikipedia, there were 14,000 arrests, 19 lives lost, and $1 to $2 billion in property damage, according to Wikipedia. So I don't think Kinzinger shed a tear regarding that. So we'll talk about why there's this double standard, and we'll talk about the new footage pertaining to January. But why will there be a digital dollar or Fed coin? Why does the Fed want greater control, or why does the Treasury want greater control? Well, that is a possibility. I'm not saying that that is exactly what's going on. It's a possibility, but I just want to show you something right now. If you look at corporate profits, if you want to talk about the banking collapse and the stock market crash that I've been predicting, and I told everyone that these banks would also collapse 2 years ago. If you watch the segment on this channel, the first segment on the stock market crash channel talks about banks going under. I wrote about this in the Federalist. Now, if you get back to where corporate profits were per quarter, so this is 2.5, it went from 2.5 trillion, around 2.4 trillion per quarter in 2019. The end of 2019, you had $2.9 trillion at in the fourth quarter, 2.4 trillion dollars, 2.4 trillion in the fourth quarter of 2019. Okay, in the fourth quarter of 2019, the Dow was at around 28,000. Okay, so if corporate profits descend, see, corporate profits now are close to 3 trillion per quarter. This is not going to last. Michael Burry says so if you don't believe me. So if corporate profits get down to where they were, and this is a very important point, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is a very, very important point. Senior, hello, everybody here. Eric, everybody, thank you, Kristen. Hello, Gladys. Hello, Gladys. Everyone here. If corporate profits, and this is what Tucker Carlson was when anyone talks about this, they're talking about the market tanking, and the market tanking because corporations eventually will make less money because of inflation. Inflation at 6% is a nightmare. It doesn't matter if it goes from 6.3 to 6.2 to 6.1 to 6.01 to 5.9%. Inflation over 5 or 6, over 2% is terrible, or over 3% is terrible. Much as 6 to 7% is like corporate profits will eventually descend. But here's the issue, ladies and gentlemen. This is what Tucker and others were referring to in a roundabout way. Okay? If you look at corporate profits in 2019 before Democrats and experts and the morally superior among us pushed to end economic activity. Okay? Here's the issue. The market is up to 32 or 30, almost 32, was at 34, because the market believes that corporate profits will continue to skyrocket. Okay? But you can see this is not the case. It goes from 2.1 trillion to 1.9 trillion, and this is not the case. Okay? Um, Especially not with inflation. Once inflation starts taking a toll, it already should have taken the toll on corporate profits, but people are putting money on their credit card. That's why consumer spending is decent, because people are putting money on their credit card. Okay, that's how you get this 2.9 to $3 trillion. The economy is not good. We have inflation, we have shortages, we have a nightmare in terms of banking. We have 3 bank collapses, the second and the third largest with SVB and Signature Bank. But all you have to look at is the corporate profits. Once they decline, all they have to do is decline from 2.5 to 2.9 trillion to 2.4 trillion. If they decline from 2.9 trillion to 2.4 trillion, what do you think happens? So, what do you think happens, ladies and gentlemen, if corporate profits go from 3 trillion to 2.4, and we're not even getting to 2 trillion, okay? To 2.4 trillion, where it was in 2019 per quarter. Okay, let's look at the Dow chart. Okay, you have a massive crash. Okay, and here's the issue. If you look at where we were, in 2019, the Dow was at 28,000. Okay, in December of 2019, the Dow was at 28,000. You could look right there. In December of 2019, okay, the Dow was at 28,000. I mean, it was at 26,000 in October. Okay, so if we get down to the corporate profit levels of 2019, if we get down to the corporate profit levels of 2019, you're looking at 6,000 points down. Okay, or just 4,000 points down, which would be a huge, well, 4,000, yeah, 28. So it'd be 4,000 points down in the Dow. And that if that happens within a 1 day or 2 day period, that would be a crash that would tank not only banks, but also hedge funds, or hedge funds would then tank the banks. You might not see Chase or Citigroup or Bank of America or Wells Fargo go under, but you could see the SVBs of the world go under. So you could see a lot more carnage. And that's the issue. I think that people don't understand. The market is going up because it believes that corporate profits will continue to skyrocket. Okay, corporate profits will continue to skyrocket. They'll just continue to skyrocket. They went from 25, the Dow went from 25,000 to 34,000. Okay. And what happened in between? Rob, thank you. You had $10 trillion pumped into the economy. $10 trillion pumped into the economy. And you know things are going to be really bad when Jim Cramer says This is hilarious. I think at this point right now, he's phoning it in because he just doesn't care anymore. This is right after he told people to invest in a Silicon Valley Bank, and I'm not joking on that. Jim Cramer says the Fed is on the cusp of a soft, safe landing. Ah, this man, I think, was reincarnated from one of the Titanic captains, or it's like Jim Cramer said the Fed is on the cusp of a soft, safe landing. I don't think that's even possible. I don't even think that is absurd. We're going to have a terrible landing because interest rates went up too quickly. They went up from 0.25% last year to 4.75% in less than a year. So that's not. And then they want to lower interest rates now, which basically, what was the point of raising rates so quickly? The whole point of that was to battle inflation because they said inflation had to be addressed. Jansen hello. So what's the point of that? Okay, so inflation was the reason that you had the interest rates go up so quickly. So let's see here. If you look, this is a great Forbes article. This is what happened. They said that inflation was temporary. They were wrong on inflation. They said it was temporary. Okay. Then they realized it wasn't, and they had to backtrack. Then they realized it wasn't, then they had to backtrack. So that's the issue. The issue is Biden's administration has mismanaged the economy. You have to understand how we got to this point, and I don't know why people don't bring this up. The reason we got to this, the reason we got to this point, okay, we got to this point because you had um, you had Democrats and experts and media saying you had to shut down economic activity. I keep harping on this. Then we shut down society. Okay? And we shut down society, and then we said, "Oh, here's stimulus checks." And then the quantitative easing helped Wall Street. So they say, well, like you get these pundits on the left who are Democrats, like vote blue no matter who, but then they pretend to go after the Democratic Party because they want to hold their feet to the flames. And they say, oh, well, quantitative easing, you bailed out Wall Street. Yeah, because if you didn't bail out Wall Street during a time when you uh, shut down society, people wouldn't be able to get back to work. You'd have zero lending. That's why the quantitative easing was there, because you would have had zero lending. They pumped liquidity into the money supply because banks would not lend. They wouldn't, if there was no quantitative easing, you wouldn't get a loan for your house or car loan or a loan for your business or anything like that. And then capitalism and society would continue to just descend into madness. So it's interesting when they it's kind of like they have all their economic theories, and it's always about trying to preach and give these sermons like, well, you bailed out SVB. Like, yeah, because people are not going to be able to get paid. They're the payrolls of all these tech companies. How are they going to pay rent? Most Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. So how are you going to be able to pay rent if you don't bail out Wall Street? Because in this case with Silicon Valley Bank, they're not going to be able to get um, they're not going to be able to get payroll done, or these corporations that have like all this money within Silicon Valley Bank. Okay, imagine if you're working for a tech company that put all of the money. Um, Corey, hello. Um, Imagine if you have a tech company that put all its money in Silicon Valley Bank. You wouldn't be able to very likely pay your employees. Michael Burry warns of last hurrah of corporate profits. So he might have been a little early, but he's been talking about this for a long time. So it's the corporate profits, ladies and gentlemen. The corporate profits, that's the real issue. And in terms of the new footage, um, in arguing for dismissal, one of the lawyers said the footage aired on Carlson's show was plainly exculpatory because it established that the Senate chamber was treated respectfully. To the extent protesters entered the chamber, they did so under the supervision of Capitol Police. The senators could have continued proceedings. Well, that is that might not be exactly true, but they probably couldn't have continued the proceedings. But nonetheless, it wasn't like what we saw every single day that summer. There's no doubt that it was worse in terms of property damage. I mean, you had how many buildings up in flames, police cars. I mean, all of these, uh, there were hundreds of incidents of arson throughout that summer. Hundreds. There were thousands of police officers injured. So you have a situation where you have a situation where I mean things are getting completely distorted because you have exculpatory evidence that was withheld. Exculpatory evidence was withheld. That's the main thing. And then the rebuttal is, well, it's missing context. And it's like, well, context, you can't be missing context when you're adding context. All we have seen, and yes, it was a bad day, but it was the same. It was a terrible day, but there were many instances in many days that summer that were far more chaotic, far more violent. And no and what that served, let's put it this way. January, that day in January was the worst thing to happen to free speech. The absolute worst thing to happen, because there is a topic that we could not talk about. There are numerous topics that nobody, and I've never seen this in my life, but there are numerous topics that nobody can talk about in this day and age. And I've never seen that in my life. I've never seen an era in American politics or just in American society where you can't talk about, um, you can't talk about an issue, or you like, I have never seen an era where you can't express your thoughts or viewpoints. I mean, they're so interested in suppressing dialogue because Like I've always said, suspicion. Here's the thing: suspicion is what they've wielded at Trump. Distrust and suspicion. They don't want distrust or suspicion of their viewpoint. So they're so focused on words like narrative. You don't need a narrative. You could see what took place. It was a terrible day. That day took place every day that summer. I agree with why people were demonstrating, but not the $1 to $2 billion in property damage. And so you have a situation where there's just it's just this unbelievable double standard. It's just this unbelievable double standard. So here you have an article in the Washington Examiner. January footage presents legal headache for DOJ prosecution. The DOJ did not. First of all, the DOJ did not prosecute the 14,000 people arrested in the same manner they did. Um, well, I don't even know. That would be state prosecutions, but the states did not prosecute in the same manner. Okay, I believe you had like two lawyers who actually threw let's just say incendiary devices, and I'm not even sure they even got jail time. I'm not even sure they got jail time. Did they? Hold on one second. Okay, so hold on. The law students, I think they were law students. Um, so hold on one second. Let's see. So I don't even know. I don't even know. You have 15, okay, so 15 months. The man who dressed funny was 4 years. This is a former lawyer who threw a at a New York vehicle, sentenced to less time. I mean, it's like unbelievable. And I think that she might not have been I actually think the sentence might have been lessened. I mean, there's the example here of you're throwing a you know what. You're throwing a you know what. And you torch the police car. This is the type of thing that happened all throughout that summer, by the way. But the man who dressed funny is getting 4 years and he was being escorted by police officers. But he didn't throw an incendiary device. So I don't understand I don't understand the double standard here. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Oh my god. You get a person who's throwing an incendiary device and getting 15 months, and then you have people being escorted throughout the building and they're getting 4 years. I don't understand. And how can this happen in America where an intelligent law student thinks that he or she can do this? How does one's mind work? Like, oh, CNN will protect me. At the end of the day, CNN is not going to. CNN will utilize the footage to show how bad Trump is. Somehow they'll spin it to Trump. And this happened all throughout the summer. I mean, this is just one example. This is just one of many, many examples where it's like unbelievable the double standard. So, I mean, the double standard is just unbelievable. I don't, I mean, these examples are all over the place. These examples are all over the place. And it's like I don't really get I don't really understand how feds seek dramatically reduced sentence. So the federal government got involved. So Biden's federal government got involved. So feds seek dramatically reduced sentence for New York. Okay. New York police union says lowballing sentences give a green light. Why would Biden's administration reduce the sentence for a person who throws an incendiary device to torch a police car? Does that make any sense at all? Does that make any sense at all? How does that happen? How on earth does that happen? I just don't understand how this. I mean, this is it's unheard of. It's unheard of. So you have a situation where an example where you have it's just unbelievable. Under prosecutors agreed to recommend 18 to 24 months, but the judge could still impose maximum sentence of 5 years. So that's down from the government's previous plan to see 10-year sentences. And so you have a situation where people can use lethal force with incendiary devices and they'll get less time in prison than a man who dresses funny and walks around the Capitol with police escorted throughout the Capitol with police. And then the rebuttal is, oh, well, you didn't see the footage of him beforehand. Well, I don't know. Was he holding the same incendiary devices as these lawyers? I mean, are you kidding me? And I understand the left because I used to be on the left. It's always like, it's like this religious pursuit. Like, oh, they're truly benefiting the world because they're showing the rage of people who, but again, you're not helping anybody by doing this. Okay, I do believe that Floyd was murdered. He should be alive, and I support law enforcement. Every once in a while, a terrible thing happens, and that's the fault of the official. But most of the time, the body cam footage exonerates the official. But here, you have a situation where it's like the left absolutely went wild. Democrats completely turned, like, just shrugged their shoulders, said actually encouraged it. In many cases, encouraged it. Didn't care at all, by the way. They didn't care at all. In many cases, they were just fine. And what they tried to do is turn every what they tried to do is turn every example of a very, very bizarre. I mean, um here you have incendiary devices being used. It's true, but the knee was on the neck for, like, I don't know how long. Even if, I mean, I understand the narcotics in the system. I get that, but I mean, you could have been overweight, and if you were, had that knee on your neck, um, the levels turn lethal though with the knee on the neck. That's the issue. Even as somebody healthy, if you're in that situation and you're, like, hallucinating or paranoid or like scared, frightened, anything could take place. I mean, it was a terrible. This is the thing. He didn't mean to, but at the same time, if the person's saying I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, eat whether there's narcotics or no narcotics, you gotta let go. You gotta let the person breathe. So, but again, there is a double standard. I support law enforcement. I think that most of the time the body cam footage exonerates. In fact, there is a YouTube channel of there is a YouTube channel of um, only body cam footage. So there's a YouTube channel of only body cam, like police body cam footage, and it's almost always exonerates. It almost always exonerates the the officer. So, but here, I mean, here you have again. This is something. This is a hurdle that I think Trump needs to understand. The hurdle being that the immense um, double standard in media. He has to find a more creative way to address it. Also, the Hunter Biden investigation is heating up big time. Pence denounces Trump. So nobody in there's not like Pence is about as popular as Mitch McConnell in the Republican Party in aggregate. So he's not, I mean, this is all public relations from here until next year. It's really all public relations. They have nothing on Trump, although I do think that the Stormy thing, they might try to get him. They're desperate to get him on the Stormy thing. They're desperate. They are desperate to get him on the Stormy thing. So, and then they're playing up the DeSantis versus Trump. I think Trump is actually playing that up because he DeSantis is going to be his vice president. Okay, he's going to pick DeSantis. There's really nothing that can stop Trump DeSantis. There's really nothing that can stop both of them. The only thing that could stop both of them is the Georgia and Arizona Republican parties. That's really the only thing. That is really the only thing that can stop both of them. If Georgia and Arizona Republican parties don't play ball, and here, I always do this. I always go ahead and do this. 270 to win. Here you go. Georgia and Arizona should not be swing states. That is very bizarre. They should be red states because they are red states. Okay, but what took place is you have local media that's firmly on the side. The Atlanta Journal Constitution, the Arizona Republic are firmly on the side of the Democratic Party. They will never accept a Trump Republican, and they won't even like accept a regular like never Trump Republican. So they have 27 electoral votes. You got to get that. If you don't get Arizona and Georgia, you can have Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton might be the next uh, president of the United States. I think she'll be the nominee. I don't see, the current president mashed potato brains bumbling and stumbling. Um, I don't see President mashed potato brains bumbling and stumbling the next year. I don't think, especially with impeachment. Yes, that's true. 100%. 100%. That has to happen. And Cheney and Bush were both in Texas, and I think Cheney then so Trump would have to change his residency, and he could do that. One of them would have to change their residency. I don't think it would be DeSantis. 100%. You're right. 100%. Tiza, you're right. And so it is possible, but only if one of them, like Cheney, was living in Texas and then they changed his residency to Wyoming. And so Trump could, if he has other locations throughout the country, he could then just change his residency, um, probably in the middle of the year. I don't even know when Cheney did in 2000, but the thing is, sorry, the thing is, if you don't win Arizona and Georgia, because I think Hillary Clinton's going to be the 24 nominee. I really do. I don't think it's going to be Biden. I don't. And so it has to be somebody with national appeal, and it has to be somebody who's won. So I like DeSantis's foreign policy too. I think DeSantis and Trump have by far the best foreign policy. I think the foreign policy we see now is terrible. I mean, look what's taking place now. And Tucker Carlson talked about that. He basically did a survey of Republicans on foreign policy, and they don't want to fund the never ending conflict in Europe. It's pretty much, they don't want to fund it. So they just pretty much don't want to, they don't want to fund it. And when Biden says things like, well, whatever you need, whatever whatever is needed, um, we'll give as much money as we need and we'll bail out SVB and everything's going to be fine. It's like, well, nobody really believes him. I mean, you could listen to him now. I mean, you can listen to him right now. We'll show that video that we saw yesterday evening. I showed it yesterday evening. It's of Biden on C-SPAN. He's making statements that he can't possibly claim. He's making statements that make no sense. So he can't possibly claim that everything's just going to be okay. You have nothing to worry about. So here, let's just go ahead and we will, let's see. Okay, hold on one second. All right.
Before I leave for California, I want to briefly speak about what's happening in Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. Today, thanks to the quick action of my administration over the past few days, Americans can have confidence.
Every time he speaks, my computer freezes. Okay, hold on one second. Let's just see here. Okay, hold on one second. So, thanks to your administration, we're at this point right now because the Fed raised interest rates way too high in a short period of time, and there was political pressure to do that because even your administration ignored, along with the Fed, inflation. So there you go. I mean, that's the first lie. His administration had nothing to do with people trusting the banking system. People don't trust the financial system because of his administration, which is a catastrophe. Trump had a great presidency if you just remove the apoplectic, absolutely hysterical response from media.
That the banking system is safe. Your deposits will be there when you need them.
How can he promise that? Maybe a Chase or Bank of America or Citigroup, but how can he promise that if you have a bank with 200-300 billion in assets, or 100 billion, 160 billion, how can you promise that? You can't promise that. You don't know.
Small businesses across the country, the deposit accounts at these banks can breathe easier knowing they'll be able to pay their workers and pay their bills. And their hardworking employees can breathe.
Sparky! Thank you, Sparky, to my super chat. Thank you. After Governor Kemp lunch, he and Chris Wray went to, well, Trump learned. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Sparky, I think that he has to, Sparky, great point. Great point. To my super chat. I can't do this without you. Thank you. Great point, Sparky. Great point, Sparky. But there has to be a way to play ball, because they're going to go and try every single possible way to prevent Trump from being victorious in 24. I don't know right now, to tell you the truth. I don't know, Sparky and everybody here to my super chat. I cannot do this without you. I don't know if, and I'm voting for Trump in 24, but Sparky, I don't know if he has the right strategy to ensure that Arizona and Georgia, I don't know if he has the right strategy to ensure that Arizona and Georgia uh continue to well, that they back him. I don't know if he has that strategy. So I don't know if he has a good enough strategy or an effective strategy to ensure that Arizona and Georgia Republicans will back him. That's what I fear in 24. I mean, it's 27 electoral votes. So, Maria, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. Maria, thank you. I agree with you. Thanks, Sparky, to my super chat. I can't do this without you. Your super chat support is so greatly appreciated.
Breathe easier as well. Last week, when we learned of the problems of the banks and the impact they could have on jobs of small businesses and banking system overall, I instructed my team to act quickly to protect these interests. They've done that. They've done that. On Friday, the government regulator in charge, the FDIC, took control of Silicon Valley Bank's assets.
Yesterday, we looked. FDIC insures $9 trillion. The top five banks are around $9 trillion in deposits. What's the problem here? If FDIC insures $9 trillion of 250,000, that's of not just all deposits. It's 9 trillion, and that's 250,000 per client, per account. The $9 trillion consists of 250,000 per account. Okay? Sparky! I agree with you. I agree with you. How on earth, how on earth can you just say that FDIC is going to take care of everything? FDIC cannot do what they FDIC cannot just take over banks the way they want FDIC to do with SVB. If I'm wrong on that, let me know. I don't think you could just take over banks.
And over the weekend, it took control of Signature Bank's assets. Treasury Secretary Yellen and a team of banking regulators have taken action, immediate action. And here are the highlights. First,
I'm the top financial person last year. One of them said that inflation was only temporary. I got the impression that we wouldn't have to raise interest rates from 0.25% to 4.75%, but apparently the inflation wasn't temporary. It was a never ending pit of despair.
first, all customers who had deposits in these banks can rest assured, I want to rest assured they'll be protected and they'll have access to their money as of today. That includes small businesses across the country.
That's not what I heard. Um, I read that not in many cases they did not have access immediately.
The bank there and need to make payroll, pay their bills, and stay open for business. No losses will be, and I want this is an important point, no losses will be borne by the taxpayers.
I don't believe that either. Sparky! Sparky! Funny how certain words or phrases I have to encode with symbols or the super chat is rejected. It's been that way for many years. Thank you, Sparky. Yeah, I do appreciate your support, Sparky, very much so. Yeah, it's that's the way it is, unfortunately. KM, I agree with you. That's the way it is, unfortunately. And, you know, I wish that, you know, I wish we could go back to like 2016 or in 2015, 2016. You could pretty much talk about any topic. There was really no censorship, but now it's a really Orwellian world where you really I actually Sparky, I have a word like a database in my brain of words that I can use and words that I can't use. That's why I'm long-winded. In addition to the fact I'm usually long-winded. That's my personality. But now I just know that there are words you can't say or use.
Let me repeat that. No
Thank
losses
you,
will be borne
Sparky.
by the taxpayers. Instead, the money will come from the fees that banks pay into the deposit insurance fund.
The deposit insurance fund is not meant to take control of entire banks. It's only meant FDIC is only meant to insure up to $250,000 per account. Big boy blue. Hello. Me too. Florida man bear. Hello. Let's continue. Sparky, thank you again. To my super chat, thank you.
Because of the actions of that, because of the actions that our regulators have already taken, every American should feel confident that their deposits will be there if and when they need them. Second,
Um, if you add over 250, if you have millions of dollars now, this is going to be a crisis that affects the billionaires and millionaires more so than people like you and me that don't have that much money. So this is actually, if you're a million, this is the worst time. This is the worst time to be a millionaire or billionaire. It really is. For a lot of reasons, financial reasons. I mean, if you're a millionaire or billionaire, and I don't even like those big banks, but you probably want to be in Chase or Citigroup or Bank of America or Wells Fargo, because if you're not in a bank that isn't too big to fail, you might actually lose that. I mean, you could possibly lose that money.
The management of these banks will be fired. If the bank is taken over by FDIC, the people running the bank should not work there anymore. Third, investors in the banks.
Sparky! Establishment knocked out small community banks a while back. Now they're going for the regionals. Yeah, that's scary. That is frightening. Sparky, great point. That is frightening. That's very frightening. That's very frightening. That's a great point. Now they're just, I mean, the consolidation, what's going to take place is the government, like Tucker Carlson and others were saying, is probably going to want a Fed coin, which could possibly track every purchase, everything you do. And it's like, that'll lead to telemarketers bothering you even more. The main thing is like these like telemarketers, it's unbelievable. Who answers the phone? This is I mean, how on earth is this profitable? Who hello? Hello? Yes. No, I have time. It's like the Democrat. A poll, CNN poll, no problem. Half hour? Yes. I have a half an hour. Yeah. Uh, Trump? No. I rate him 2 out of 10 in terms of trustworthiness. Yeah, how are you? Okay, good. Yeah, take your time. I have more than a half hour. Or like, who answers if you see a number you don't know? You go, hello? Hello? Why would you even, I there's a shipment? Really? Let me give you my social. Yes. Here's my social. You want my credit card for the shipment that's coming? But I didn't order anything. Okay, fine. Here's my credit card. Who does that? Maybe people do that. I don't know.
Will not be protected. They knowingly took a risk, and when the risk didn't pay off, investors lose their money. That's how capitalism works. And fourth, there are important questions of how these banks got into the circumstance in the first.
Ryan Larson. Imagine 2006. Cy Hirsch busted President of the United States. Yeah, pipeline. Matt Taibbi busts the POTUS party colluding with big tech to censor. Exactly, Ryan. Exactly. Great point. There would be very little to no pushback at all, and they would have both won the Pulitzer Prize. Matt Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, and Barry Weiss and Cy Hirsch, they deserve Pulitzer Prizes. They ain't going to get a Pulitzer Prize. Seymour Hirsch got a Pulitzer Prize when it actually meant something. Now it's just you can get a Pulitzer Prize saying bad things about Trump. Oh, yeah. One person got a Pulitzer Prize, if you could believe this. Um, One person got a Pulitzer Prize. Um, just finding out that Trump didn't give as much charity as he claimed. What? How on earth is that a noteworthy, like, how on earth, how on earth is that a noteworthy thing? Thank you, Ryan Larson. Thank you, Sparky. Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life will back 50 cents on the dollar. That's Mr. It's a Wonderful Life. You know what I first thought of, Sparky, when you wrote that? Do you remember what was the okay, ladies and gentlemen? What Sparky, Ryan, everybody here, 367 viewers, not bad. What was the show with John Travolta as like a teenager? Or he was like probably 20 years old in the show or 19, but he was a student. I think Mr. Potter's class or what was it? What was that show? What was that show? And there was a character that talked like this. Show Travolta sitcom. It was a sitcom. It was a sitcom. What was the sitcom? Welcome back, Cotter. Cotter. That's right. That's right. Big Boy Blue. Big Boy Blue. Welcome back, Cotter. That's right. That's the show. Vinny Barbarino. That's right. That's right. That was a great show. Welcome back. That was a great show. When you wrote that, it's like the first thing I thought of. Sparky, Ryan, thank you. That's right, Vinny Barbarino.
First place. We must get the full accounting of what happened and why those responsible can be held accountable. In my administration, no one is above the law.
Except Hunter. In my administration, no one is above the law. Except, of course, Hunter and everybody, me too. Other than that, nobody is. Come on, man. Hey, cornflakes. Hey, cornflakes, man. You want some, man? Cornflakes, man. You want some cornflakes? Let's do this, cornflakes.
Finally, we must reduce the risk of this happening again. During the Obama-Biden administration, we put in place tough requirements on banks like Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, including the Dodd-Frank law to make sure that the crisis we saw in 2008 would not happen again. Unfortunately, the last administration rolled back some of these requirements. I'm going to ask Congress and the banking regulators to strengthen the rules for banks to make it less.
Not one regulation, True Blue, thank you. Not one regulation would have prevented SVB because they had the right to buy bonds. Their bonds tanked. Now, maybe, look, I don't know. I don't know why they managed their bank in the way that they did. They should have had the assets to ensure that even in a bank run, they had enough to give back the money. So that's maybe a regulation that they should have followed, but I think that's an existing regulation already. So the regulators did not regulate. Regulators, they didn't regulate. So they should have already followed existing regulations. But Democrats are always going to go back. They're always going to go back to the well. They're always going to, oh, I mean, you didn't, what can I tell you? You didn't, um, regulation. The reason it happened, regulation had nothing to do with interest rates going from 0.25 to 4.75%. Because Democrats didn't think inflation was a problem. We had inflation directly because of Biden's policies. Directly because of Biden's policies. Not because of Trump's policies, because of Biden's policies, including getting sued by oil and gas associations.
Less likely this kind of bank failure would happen again, and to protect American jobs and small businesses. Look, the bottom line is this. Americans can rest assured that our banking system is safe. Your deposits are safe. Let me also assure you, we will not stop at this. We'll do whatever is needed. On top of all that, let's also take a look at a moment to put the situation in a broader context. We've made strong economic progress in the past 2 years. We've created more than 12 million new jobs.
Wrong. Wrong. You didn't create even one job. Not one job did this man create. Not one job. The 12 million quote unquote new jobs are actually jobs that people went back to because Democrats and you're wrong, Dr. Rand, and all the morally superiors said you can't work. When Democratic governors shut down economic activity and sent law enforcement to gyms and restaurants for committing the heinous crime of opening a restaurant or a gym. It was Democrats that were pushing every single day to shut down everything. And if the rebuttal is that's not true, tomorrow, if you're wrong, Dr. Rand says, hey, you need to shut everything down, 50 to 60% of Democrats will say, do it, shut it down, just give us stimulus checks, and no problem. And when they did that, they caused 22 million people to be unemployed immediately. Immediately. They caused 22 million people to be unemployed within a matter of months, and they went back to the unemployment rate of Trump in 2020 January. The unemployment rate was around 3.2, 3.3%. In January of 2020, and Democrats said you have to shut down economic activity. It was a choice. They didn't have to do that. The hysteria and paranoia, there was a body count on CNN. Okay. You turn on CNN, it was like a rising body count number. They made as much money as possible, and they tried to consolidate as much political power as possible on the state, local level, especially. On the state and local level, especially. Not one job did this man create. He got into the presidency, and then Democratic governors slowly reopened their economy, and then jobs were created. Thousands upon thousands of businesses went bankrupt. How many restaurants, ladies and gentlemen, do you know that don't exist anymore? How many restaurants do you know that don't exist anymore? There are a number of restaurants that I know of that near me that don't exist anymore. So that was a true economic sin. That really was an economic sin. And when you then allowed people to then work again, then that's not creating jobs. That's simply getting back to where we were when you shut down and tanked the economy. I love how people view that as just it happened. It had to have happened. It was like a natural event, like just a natural, like a volcano or something. It just had to have happened.
More jobs in 2 years than any president has ever created in a single 4-year term. Unemployment.
Wrong, wrong. You benefited from Democratic governors opening up their economy, and then you took credit for jobs created, which was really jobs with people going back to jobs, um, which is 22 million people were unemployed in the span of 3 months in 2020. So all of those people went back to work. You didn't create anything.
Unemployment is below 4% for 14 straight months. Take-home pay for workers is going up.
No wages are down because of inflation. Real wages were up. Real wages continue to go down. And food price and food inflation continues to go up. So,
especially for lower and middle income workers. And we've seen record numbers of people apply to start new businesses, more than 10 million of them, more than 10 million applications over the last 2 years starting businesses. Now we need to keep this progress going. That's what swift action that my administration over the past few years is all about. Protecting depositors, protecting the banking system, protecting the economic gains we've made together for the American people. Thank you, God bless you, and may God protect our troops. See you in California.
Mr. President, what do you know right now about why this happened? And can you assure Americans that there won't be a ripple?
Why wasn't Trump allowed to simply just leave? Why did Trump have to stay with the performance art? I just think that you've been really bad. You're gonna apologize for lying to the American people. You're gonna apologize for lying to the American people. Why is look? He's just leaving. It's like 2 seconds. How long did this take? It's like unbelievable.
Our troops. See you in California.
Mr. President, what do
One,
you know right now
2,
about why this happened?
3.
And can you assure Americans that there won't be a ripple?
It takes less than 3 seconds for him to bolt. It takes less than 3 seconds for him to bolt. Okay? Less than 3 seconds for him to just jet out of there. All right? How does that work? I couldn't find the door. So, I mean, it's just pretty unbelievable. It's just pretty unbelievable. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. I should have a live stream at around 9:30 tonight. So be here at 9:30, everybody. I'll have a live stream at 9:30. Okay. I want to thank everybody to my super chat. Thank you so very, very much. It's been wonderful. We have 440 plus people. Thank you. He just doesn't answer their question, he just runs off. Anyway, aside from 2016, a slight victory there. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless everybody here. Thanks so very much. Be here at 9:30 p.m. Pacific. Thank you